And we're live with Jeff and his son Morgan.
Woohoo!
To review Fallen Heroes. And
Morgan says he's not.
sorry, he's not what?
He said he's not here.
Okay, fair enough. He's not here.
Don't say he's here.
He's in the background, but not a willing participant in the hangout. Right.
Right, yeah, that. All right, so this is Season 6, Episode 22, Fallen Heroes Part 1. And once again, no Morris recap of this, but there is a Wikipedia recap. Of course, it does both episodes, so I have to know to figure out where to stop in the description. But anyway, Fallen Heroes is a two-part episode that concludes the 6th season of the American police drama television series Homicide: Life on the Street. Part 1 originally aired on NBC on May 1st, 1998. It was written by Lois Johnson and Eric Overmyer and directed by Catherine Bigelow. And I'm not going to read that part because that's already a spoiler for the second part. Okay, so, plot summary. While Falzone and Stivers investigate the murder of a probation officer, Bayless and Pimbleton investigate the stabbing of Judge Gibbons and conclude that the culprit was Nathaniel Lee Mahoney, Georgia Ray's son. Their search for Nathaniel Lee reaches a dead end until Meldrick Lewis reveals that Nathaniel Lee is also known as Junior Bunk, a small-time hood who had crossed paths with the homicide detectives in previous episodes. When Bayless and Pimbleton bring Junior Bunk into the box, they are taken aback by his new hardcore attitude, which contrasts sharply with his previously meek demeanor. Despite the detective's confidence that the judge's murder was ordered by Georgia Ray, Junior refuses to give up his mother. Junior is left shackled to a desk in the squad room where he waits to be processed and is mocked by Meldrick. Left unattended for a moment, Junior grabs a Glock 19 pistol from an unlocked desk drawer where he had seen a detective put it away earlier and starts firing randomly. His shots kill 3 uniformed police officers and wound Ballard and Gardy. After he stops shooting, there is a moment when the police are too stunned to respond, and he takes advantage of this by demanding he be released. However, he is then immediately cut down in a hail of bullets from Giardello, Kellerman, Lewis, and Bayless. As Ballard, who was hit in the foot, and Gardy, who was hit in the chest, are rushed to surgery, G declares all-out war on the Mahoney crime organization, resulting in a series of arrests and raids. Okay, I'm going to got to skip that part because they jumped ahead to the conclusion of that story. That may be all that they say about part 1 because all the rest of this I think is all part 2 stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go over to a few comments on the TV.com site. Like I said, there's not a David B226 Morris review, but there's a few other people who commented on this episode, so I figured I'd read their brief comments.
Has he not done any more David B226 Morris?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it because I looked at the first few episodes of Season 7 and I didn't see it either, so it looks like he stopped a few episodes short of the end of the 6th season.
Well, there's a space for you there, Jeff.
It's a space for me.
Yeah.
All right, so this first review, who gave it a 10, named Fracking Fracker, says... They rarely fire a shot on Homicide. This show was more about brains and solving the cases than it ever was about gunfights and car chases. That's one of the reasons I liked it. So imagine my surprise that one of my most favorite episodes involved what is the most graphic scene of violence that ever appeared on the show. Yeah, I know, weird. Truth to tell, I still don't breathe during the scene with Junior Bunk. I just can't. I know what's happening. I know what will happen, and I just can't breathe. I feel like I want to reach into the screen and find a way to stop him. See, I don't feel like that, but I do feel like I'm charged up by it. So I have I feel them on that part, but I never felt the need to reach in and stop Junior Bunk. But especially as Morgan pointed out, knowing that he's about to get capped by multiple people,
including Morgan's 2 favorite characters, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, he says, I suppose it says something about how real the show was for me, how real the characters were, the level of reality the show possessed from the beginning until the end was well, unreal. This episode is a testament to that. For something a little more in depth, the episode told its story well. There was a case. They found a suspect and tried to break him. Nothing new there. But what happens after that, how he was broken, or in this case, not broken, which gives the episode the weight it needed. The story grows from the Luther Mahoney saga introduced seasons ago and brings it to a screaming conclusion in a manner that does not leave the viewer disappointed. And years later, I'm still on the edge of my seat when I watch it. Okay, I guess that's the only comment on part one. I think on part two there were some more, but we'll get to that next week. So, anyways, probably the most action-packed episode of Homicide ever. At least the one with the most gunshots. But anyway, Ben?
Oh, it was okay. I'm just thinking that there's some of the like that bit at the end when towards the end when G and Kellerman were shooting at him. If they'd have missed him, would they have shot each other? They have to think about crossfire.
Yeah, well,
It's like a bit like the old circular firing squad thing.
I guess they couldn't worry about it while it was happening. They just had to
true.
do what they felt like they had to do.
None of them were in each other's line of fire. He doesn't have good spatial awareness.
Did you hear that, Ben?
Not quite. What was it?
He said none of them were in each other's line of fire.
Fair enough. Right. They know these things. They only have to be slightly off. An inch is as good as a mile. Right. Oh, I just noticed there was a Jesus fish on the back of that car, but not relevant to the plot. Right. I just remember that because of the Seinfeld episode.
So before it disappears, that thing on the board is the confirmation that last week's episode was not a dream because Sloan is still on the board.
Let's go.
Unless the entire rest of the series is a continuing dream by Baylor.
Yeah, and they got the special cold case, cold blue pen out.
Yeah,
as well. Right then. With this, it reminds me of when some other parts of the cast got shot up. I think it was when it was Bolander and the ICP Baldwin and and Howard, and none of them were written out at that point. And then with this, I do hope there's some like repercussion. I mean, there is the repercussion to it, that the fact that there's been a change in G, and even though
there's definitely repercussions. I'm not going to tell you what they are exactly, but definitely has a big effect on things.
Yeah, and I would definitely, and his response is definitely in keeping with his character and his type. Yeah. I did like the stuff with Junior Bunk, because we've seen him before, and the fact that prison is going to either make him commit suicide or toughen him up. And given that he's connected to the Mahoney network, then he's going to have some sway in prison.
Once again, for our thousands of people watching, Ben has to stick a couple of random pictures that have nothing to do with the episode.
Oh, yes. Yes. Right. Right. What else? Okay.
That kid looked familiar. I know I've seen him in something else, but I can't remember what.
Of the homicide pictures.
Yeah, the dude that was on the screen when I said that, the white kid that was the parolee that was
right. Okay.
That shot the other dude, shot the parole officer in the car while the other people were shooting.
This guy.
Yeah, I said I recognized him, but I can't remember what else I've seen him in. I just know I saw him in something else. Don't remember his name.
Right. So I'll ask you a question. I think the performance of the guy playing Junior Bunk is okay. And what do you think of the whole Julia Bunk storyline? And I like Lewis's reaction to the new and improved Junior Bunk.
Yeah, I mean, I liked all of that. I thought, it was good performances and good writing for the most part in terms of the way that part of it plays out. The only thing that was probably more of a directorial choice than the writing or even the producers, I thought it was a little too obvious having them show, like, kind of close up on the guy putting the gun in and Junior seeing that. So I didn't really...
Yeah, they should have done slow-mo.
It was just, like, kind of really obvious foreshadowing. I thought that was a little bit,
Well...
Not the... Yeah, not the usual subtlety that Homicide has. It was a little bit more, textbook Hollywood.
Yeah, you see, there's two different views on that, because there's that in terms of the theory of it. One is that they make it obvious because it creates dread, so that you want the audience to know that, so the audience starts to worry, and there's a dread in them. Oh, something could happen with that gun later on down the line.
Yeah, and it's sort of a dramatic irony kind of thing. With, where the rest of the characters don't know what the audience knows. So. Yeah, I understand why they did it. I just thought it was a little bit too obvious. If it had been maybe a little bit of a quicker cut, not quite so in your face with it.
That's what I was saying. If they had him do that full speed, didn't take an actual shot for it.
Yeah, not slowing it down.
Yeah,
and
as he's getting dragged away, he does look over and see that, but he's like off on the camera. You're not focusing on that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things that's like highly, it's one of those like artistic decisions, like how much to do it, how much not. I can sort of see that both sides on that.
Yeah, to me, it's a testament to how I get into this episode. That it's I have to kind of think hard to come up with those kind of things. Like I can come up with flaws in the episode. I can sort of be picky about things, but in terms of just an overall, episode of entertainment, I mean, it's top notch as far as I'm concerned. Like because it keeps the suspense and the pace through the whole thing, and yeah, that is, like I said, the most action-packed episode. And like I said last week about Finnegan's Wake and the kind of more dreamy essence of that episode. It wouldn't be the same show if it was like this every time. It would be a different show because, Homicide was not made to be like the action shoot 'em up type show. But we have this season, they kind of bookended the season with, we start the season with the bang because when Junior Bunk was shooting at the detectives, and then we kind of end it with the same type of thing. So it was sort of like they had plenty of typical Homicide episodes in between, but they wanted to, kind of go out with the action at the end. And so this is it definitely works as a lead into the season. So
did this actor go on to do other things?
Oh yeah, don't ask me to list them, look them up.
Right, okay.
But yeah, he was in movies and stuff for a while.
Right.
Another thing I could pick at is a little bit of the dialogue between Bayless and Pembleton was a little bit cheesy in a couple of scenes. Not. It was like, I knew it was for humor, but it was just like something didn't quite seem on point about it. Overall, I think the dialogue was good in this episode. In fact, it reminded me of your comments about, like the very first episode and how snappy the dialogue was. There were scenes that were like that in this one, like the scene of Munch talking to Falzone and Stivers about Pony Johnson, and that and not coincidentally talking about a guy who was in the first season, because the episode that had Pony Johnson was back in season 1.
Pony Johnson.
You made a point of pointing out his wardrobe at the time, because you called it a shell suit.
Yes.
He had like the windbreaker jacket on or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Pony Johnson.
They're very popular amongst retirees as well, wearing those shell suits.
Yeah, the only thing that might slightly discontinuous, if that's the word, I don't know, is that they had Munch as the primary, but I remember Pony Johnson being interviewed by Howard and Felton, so I thought one of them was the primary on that case, but maybe they both were, or had or it was on, or I think Munch said something about him killing multiple people, so maybe they both had him as a suspect in different murders.
Well, maybe they have this process of, because they've moved out, those two, where it's like they moved the case over to him. So it's still not.
But if that was the case, they could have mentioned that. And it was more like they said the primary at the time was John Munch. It would have been an opportunity to drop in the other characters' names, but I guess they didn't want to do that because they have done it before. Homicide's shown that they're not one of those shows who acts like the previous character never existed.
Right.
Like NYPD Blue, who never mentioned John Kelly after he left. They would only, even Sipowicz referred to him as the other guy.
Ooh, that's a bit.
Well, to be fair, they were kind of pissed at David Caruso at the time, so
Okay, fair enough.
there was kind of a reason for that. But it's still, to me, as a writer or producer of the show, you rise above that and you have the characters realistically say what they would say.
Yeah.
Whether it's mentioning a past character or not. So that's my opinion. But anyway,
I suppose. I mean, is there anything that is? Would you think that?
Finish a sentence, Ben. You're going INTP on me.
Yeah. Do you think that with G fitting the ESTJ pattern, and do you think like ESTJs do have that certain point where they go, it's like, you've broken the rules, now I'm going badass, I'm going to reinforce them?
You went robo voice on me, so I didn't understand.
Oh, sorry. Quite. Oh, yeah, I was just wondering, do you think it's a common trait with ESTJs that they reach a certain point where when someone breaks the rules, they will go badass on someone to reinforce those rules?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and sometimes it doesn't take much. Like I said, I work with two ESTJ supervisor type people, general managers over multiple restaurants, and both of them, I would say, their breaking point doesn't take much. They're pretty forceful without a whole lot of provocation if somebody's breaking rules or not getting with their program.
And in fact, that would be actually, I think socionics would say that their breaking point was actually, it's easier to annoy them than it is to annoy an ESTP.
That could be true. I mean, I think ESTPs are just annoyed by different things.
Yeah.
Because, rules are not important to ESTPs. It's the thing that is, from my observation, from the ESTPs I know, is the thing that annoys them most is like incompetence or, people not being up to their level in some area.
Yeah.
They want people to be like rise to the challenge or be a challenge to them. And when they're not, then they're annoyed by that.
Yeah, especially also, when that, yeah.
Annoyed by people, as my son has said, throwing their feelings at them.
Do you think they become more open to that as they mature? The STJs.
Open to what?
The feelings thing.
Well, yes and no. I think they still probably don't like emotional outbursts from people or whatever, but maybe learn to not be quite as irritated by some things. I don't know.
Do you think they respect people who stick to their values? And
well, yeah, like we talked about in the last episode, Kellerman telling Finnegan he liked his style, So, and of course, in this episode, we had Kellerman answer a question by not answering a question when Bayless, when Bayless asked him about, calling out the judge in front of witnesses, and he just goes, why would I do that? He doesn't deny that he did it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Bayless's detective skills sort of like it didn't follow up much.
Well, yeah, because it's a little different. You know, it's when it's not a suspect in the box; it's a fellow detective. But he's, you know, we already had last season where Bayless got up in his face a little bit about, you know, when he was accused, you know, taking bribes when he was in the arson squad. So,
and certainly, if Bayless was a ESTJ, he might follow up a bit more with Kellerman.
What's that?
I was saying, if Bayless were an ESTJ, he would follow up more with Kellerman and sort of be almost be in a wannabe G role, I suppose.
Well, yeah, if Bayless were an ESTJ, then he probably wouldn't be he'd probably be supervising a different department by now, rather than still a homicide detective, because he already at least would be a sergeant. Because yeah, ESTJs are always like trying to move up within the ranks.
Because theoretically, well, according to Kersey, ISFJs are accommodating, and so his natural inclination is not.
At least they think they are.
Yeah.
They're accommodating in the way they think is right to be accommodating. Which is still, to me anyway, it comes off passive aggressive a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because they want to be like, I'll do things for people, but they also want people to do things the way they want them done. But rather than the ESTJ style of telling somebody to their face, this is what you're going to do, they do it in this way of like trying to manipulate you to do those things by acting like hurt if you don't, or trying to use guilt trips or things like that, you know.
Yeah. Sounds a little bit like...
Like,
yeah, go on.
You know, I remember a topic on a typology forum a long time ago where I, you know, compared it because, like, to somebody, you know, wants the garbage to be taken out. Like, an ESTJ is going to say, take the garbage out. Whereas an ISFJ will be like, boy, it sure would be nice if someone took the garbage out. You know, they say it in this way that's like, they're not going to give you a direct order. They're just going to say it in this way like, you know, this is what should be done. But
well, I'd just be like, you know, if someone said, hey, could you take the garbage out, please? Put a please in there, you know, then I would do it. But it's like, why didn't you ask me properly?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's the style of ISFJs. It tends to be like not directly telling somebody to do something.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it when people are hinting at stuff like that.
I don't either.
You know, let me know that you would be, you know, just ask. And then the other one wouldn't work either. Right then. Do you think they should? In future, do you think there will be a bit more pushback against Kellerman for having a big mouth?
Did you say, do I think, or?
Well, you see, you do. You see, you're not. You so. Do you think? Or do you think they should be? This is a tricky question because, like,
what do you mean?
Spoilers.
I mean, what do you mean by pushback?
Well, I hope they do, like, you know, have a word with him, like, you know, because he did sort of like cause some problems in this episode.
Oh, they'll have a word with him. There will be some words and some other things in next week's episode. Stay tuned.
So what was
like
Morgan's?
I said, it's satisfyingly dissatisfying.
So what was Morgan's point of view on like Kellerman like going up in front of the judge's face? You know, in the previous.
He was stupid.
Right. But he could understand the urge, but just thought it was unwise.
Yeah. And he doesn't like the, people on the show for making him act that way, for making him stupid, and everybody else like turning against him and stuff.
Yeah, because it's like it seems to be that with Kellerman, it's like sometimes every now and then he's sort of written in the dick mode, and then he'll go back to being the smart Kellerman.
Yeah, the display that he has intelligence. Both the writers and the other characters act like he's just always a stupid asshole instead. So everyone constantly is against him. Even though he's like really useful. The first episode he came on, the reason he was in the Homicide Squad is because he got somebody nobody else did. And everyone acts like he's this useless jerk asshole who everyone should like be mean to. So that's why Bayless is able to get in his face, because usually everyone can get in Bayless's face without repercussions, because Bayless was always like the stupid new guy. But because Kellerman has a significant like presence as guy you can make fun of, guy you can be a jerk to, then Bayless gets in on it too. So he's a jerk to him for no reason, because that's his role in the squad. That's what all the Guardians placed him at.
Yeah.
It's just annoying. It's just all annoying. But it's just another way to learn the life lesson that people are trash.
Yeah, I would say that the next week's episode, the Kellerman fans, yeah, like you, for instance, it's I would caution them not to watch next week's episode. But the thing is I'll get into that more next week when we do the review of that one. But I will say ahead of time just this, that it once again reinforces my view that Homicide can make a choice in what they do with the story and the characters, that I am really disappointed in what happens, but still love the way that they do it, in the sense that it's really well done by everybody and realistic, in the sense that often, I don't put it exactly the same way Morgan does about people who are trash, but I would say life sucks often, and things happen. Things don't happen, neat little packages like often TV shows and movies have endings that everybody's satisfied, and it's a risk, when a television show, at least at that time, now it's a little bit different because there's so many, avenues for entertainment beyond just like network television type stuff. But at that time especially, it was still quite a bit of a bold thing to do for a network television show to say, we're going to end the season in a way that makes people, that's very bleak, I'll put it that way. That there's not this satisfying conclusion where everybody, has a nice happy time over the summer. Where it's more like you just feel drained at the end of it. And we've talked about individual episodes like that before, that were like that. For instance, Three Men and Adina, one of the best episodes, where they don't get the guy to confess.
Why do you want to feel drained after watching an episode of the show?
And no, I can't remember the title, but the one about the NSA guy, where at the end of it, it's like they still don't know for sure, and they can't catch the guy, and it's like there's nothing they can do. So there's once again a repeated thing on Homicide where it's like things don't turn out the way you want them to. You can only just sort of do your best within what life throws at you, and so that's a continuing theme of Homicide, and it's once again demonstrated in this particular story.
They're some of my more favourite episodes, the ones where they didn't quite get the criminal, where they're not able to quite close the case.
And there's some episodes where they are able to, and it's still, kind of leaves you not exactly. It's not exactly life affirming. Like for instance, a couple of weeks ago, the one with the guy that was blackmailing the country club people, and then the guy killed him. You know, it's like nobody's thinking like, well, everything just turned out great there. It's just more like humanity sucks, kind of.
Yeah, and also the way the actor played the head of that country club, I don't think it was like a proper. And then I think the following episode, you had someone give a much better performance, a more sympathetic performance to the bad guy that they were playing. Whereas I felt that I just got the impression that he wasn't being played. I didn't get the impression that the actor had any respect for the role, for the part he was playing, and so he played it in a certain way that showed that.
Well, to bring it back to this episode, was there more you had to say about this one? I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about next week, but this one really, I think because it's so much an action-packed episode, there's not as much to talk about because most of it is just pretty obvious in terms of, like I said, I've already discussed the the choices as far as like doing the close-up on the guy putting the gun in and stuff like that. So there's a few things like that, but.
To remind the audience, especially the audience outside the United States, that the American prison system is pretty tough. So, and Junior Bunk has been in prison. So,
except that in this case, this episode, you had two different people who had murdered people that had been let out already. So. Yeah. So in some ways, the prison system may be tough, but the legal system may not always.
Yes, the legal system not so much, but the other prisoners, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why you would want to work in a prison, I don't know, unless you want the mob coming round your house and telling you to take drugs in, because how else are the drugs going to get into prison other than via the staff?
Totally.
Yeah, it's only thing I figure is, as far as people I know that have been like corrections people and stuff, I guess it's easier to get into that than it is regular police force. So that's why people do it more. I guess it's more. It's probably more in demand job because less people want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're organised crime, you're going to find out who the people are who work in a prison. And you're going to turn up to their door and give them an offer they can't refuse.
I mean, I don't know how prominent that is, but I guess if you're an organized crime, it probably pays to know as many people as you can. Period.
Yeah.
That are in, But anyway.
Yeah, because anyhow, we'll talk about this in future. Right. So we've sort of covered that. We covered the typology aspect a little bit there, so I think this has been a pretty good review in the end. Right.
Yeah. So
I think I'll give it about a 9. Just a little thing hurt me at the time that a member of the regular cast gets shot, but they'll probably recover. But at least there's been some change, at least in G's reaction to that. So Guardian's Ballad will probably survive, but at least we get to see G in hardcore mode. Maybe it'll be more hardcore in the next episode. We can get to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll give it a 9
because to me, it really grips me through the whole thing. So I can't. Like I said, I can pick at little things in it, but to me, like Morgan said, it's how you do an episode. In this case, it's how you do like a exciting kind of heart pumping episode. So for that, it's top notch to me. This is another one of those episodes where I wouldn't show it to somebody and say, they've never seen Homicide before. Like, here's an example of Homicide, because it isn't exactly. But I would probably show it to somebody who I knew probably overall wouldn't be into Homicide, but likes shoot 'em up cop shows. for like, here's how that show can also do that really well. So, anyway.
I'll give the best episode out of 10.
All right.
Oh,
So Ben and I's average would be 9.5, and join us next time for the season finale of season 6, Fallen Heroes Part Dos.
right. Bye, folks.